David Howard's art scene.
Christo, the artist's vision.
And since age of 6, I tried to be an artist. This is how I start to be involved. That is very normally. Usually the children playing football or have a musical instrument. My mother cared very much that I was interested about art or drawings and paintings, and she tried to develop my interest.
Behind this door, in an old Lower Manhattan factory building, Christo, the spectacular environmental artist, manages and creates his own world of art, where he sets the rules.
There are not any square meters in the world that we are not control how to move. The moment we walk out of that street, somebody designed the sidewalk, somebody designed the street, somebody designed the highway, even the airway. 24 hours around the clock, we are funneled to the particular precise space. That space is designed by politicians, urban planners, powerful structure, and of course, we're taking that space completely grounded, and we existing 24 hours around the day by accepting that space or that reality. And I come to that reality and I create gentle disturbance and in some way that suddenly our banal and routine movement and existence of that reality should be changed or should be adjusted because there are obstruction, there are barrier, there are demarcation, territory, control places, and of course that is all my project involved.
One of Christo's earlier projects, produced in 1970, Valley Curtain, propelled the artist to international fame.
Project is adventure. It's almost like an expedition. And when the project is over, it's also part of our lifetime. There was a certain point of my growing life that I like to do this project. I never can do it again because there was reflecting precise moment when I like to do this type of project.
The Valley Curtain was huge, 1,250 feet wide and 365 feet high. It was hung across Rifle Gap in Colorado. Its weight and size were so massive it collapsed only after a short time, but its integrity and ambition lives on today in the minds of art enthusiasts. Christo's New York studio is on 3 levels. It is furnished only with the bare essentials to produce and design his art, sacrificing almost all creature comforts.
Art is this very complex process of communication. It's not extremely precisely limited. Certainly the physicality of the work of art, or put it in a way that the presence of the object, of the things, is extremely triggering energy, that without the work of art, that art do not exist. Certainly the visuality of the work of art is extremely resourceful to create all that communication with the number of idea people. But it's not something you can separate, because the process of communication is very intricate and quite complicated. It's not something like the object exists separately out of that continuous process. Each project has his own way of development. I do not ever do the same things again. I built many years ago running fence in California. I will not do another running fence. I surround islands in Miami. I will not do another surrounding islands. I built Valley Curtain in Colorado almost 20 years ago. I will never do that again. And now that new project called the Umbrellas, joint project for Japan in the United States, is the project completely different of all other projects I did. First is the simultaneously project in 2 parts, very much like a symphony in 2 parts, involving an essential part of comparison of similarity differences and the way how hundreds of thousands of people move and live in 2 inland valleys in Japan and California, involving streets and towns and villages and rivers and roads and highway, mountains, forests. Of course, this is completely new proposition. the project is revealed to us. It's like a revelation. The project built his own reality. It's like a fabulous monster who grow, and he grow like a child, and he have his own way of development, who we hope we do the right things. No, we hire professionals, we hire lawyers, the engineers, the specialists. We got a great amount of thinking that we know how the project should be done. But in the very end, each project has his own life, his own reality. What is the exciting part of this project is that they're bigger than my imagination. Anything one I can imagine never can really be compared with the tremendous complexity and reality of the real things. This is when the project is over, when the work is realized, it's almost like a completely different thing. You create something, or you invent something, and you have a creativity essential part of that. And of course, one of the most resourceful, the most enjoyable and pleasure things is that I can do my things. What's meaning that I can do my thing is that the freedom when I can achieve by doing this work of art. They are probably the most essential part of the existence, because they're almost like a scream of freedom in a way that, because they own belong to me, they're mine, I invent them, I pay for them, they belong to me, they cannot be sold, and I own them. You know, this is something extremely important to understand. This is so important, essential part of art experience. Is that freedom to have no clients, that freedom to be on self and to blame yourself all the time for all the problems. And all history of art is the continuous continuity of information or communication all the time. This is why art is not, art object cannot be separate without that continuity, what is related to whom, to what, and how he's born, and how he's created, and how it still exists. Your ego is all the time put against the wall, and when you have failure, you're like a cold shower over you. And it's not like a normal place in studio that when you can burn the painting or destroy the work. It's all in public space. You're confronted with great amount of visibility. All that is very refreshing and very stimulating. And basically the creativity of making a work of art is probably the most exhilarating, most satisfying experience. And of course, that dynamics, that uniqueness, or put it, exclusivity, is the essential part of this project. This is why I'm so keen that this project cannot be kept, that they have this energy, cannot be canned in box and be preserved, because that is almost against the entire energy the work of art has. And that development of expectation and final fulfillment of the realization of the real things. That project is called the Wrap Reichstag, and is proposing to wrap the former German parliament situated in Berlin with a very heavy coated fabric, like a metal color, like a stainless steel, the structure for 2 weeks. And we'll be shrouding that building, which is built Here's on the left side the drawings of the facade. This facade is the 19th century structure built by architect Vallot. The building was the Parliament of Germany, was founded by Bismarck to be the Parliament of Germany. Situated, that is the plan of the building, situated just on the edge between West and East Berlin. The city of Berlin is divided in 4 military sectors after 1945, the end of the war. Most of the building is in the western sector of Berlin and the British military sector. But 100 feet of the east facade, that part of the building, is in the Soviet military sector. And to do that project, we need to convince the British, the Americans, and the French in West Berlin, and the Soviet army in East Berlin, the federal government in Bonn, and the East German Communist government in East Berlin. And of course, that project is deeply involved with the essence of the East-West relation, who is the paramount issue of 20th century life. And of course, the incredible uniqueness how one great city like Berlin can be so incredibly divided in different territories, in different regulation, in different way of moving in that space. Space is all blocked by the wall. The wall is just built right here. And physically and symbolically, the entire city is split in two. Of course, the project involved to borrow that sense of separation, division, development in two different places, and to appropriate all these senses to become integral part of the work of art. For 16 years, we tried to convince great amount of responsible people to give us permission to do the project, and we failed in several occasions. Of course, each time is the very infuriating, in some way very frustrating, but also it's very resourceful, because the refusal and the negativism of the people is very stimulating to go ahead and try to overcome that obstacle. This is why this project carries some kind of determination who is the trigger. The negativism or the refusal is triggered that determination, and it give us more energy, more envy, and more delight to go ahead and try to succeed the work. And of course, it's very, very unpredictable. Often my friends telling me that all my projects have hidden suicidal character, because nobody can assure that when we get permission, nobody can assure that we can realize the work.
Here is an example of a work Christo was able to realize after he was given permission to execute it in 1968. It is entitled Rapkunsthal and was made in Bern, Switzerland, consisting of 27,000 square feet of reinforced polyethylene.
Work deal with that highly controlled and owned space by government, by private people, by the different agency, and borrow that space for a short time even, and to project my will or my vision or my dream, if you put it that way, is the essential part of the work. On the way the work borrow the dynamics of that space who everybody accept every day. And of course, the temporariness of the work is planned from the beginning, that that transformation or that introduction to the space will be short-living, will be few weeks, few days. And of course, the urgency to be present there, to see, create some kind of affection and some kind of sympathy, because tomorrow will be gone and will disappear. until the middle of 19th century, the art was made for clients. It's only very few works of art was done for no clients before that. And the modern art, or the so-called 20th century art and some part of 19th century art, is the example of that freedom has to develop when an artist tries to do work for himself. And of course, that freedom is matter can be exercised in the studio, can be exercised in the gallery, but that freedom can be exercised and beyond the professional art connoisseur space, that is the open public space. And of course, his idea to project that freedom outside of the familiar control space of art connoisseurship and to engage the value of that space of relation of human existence to become integral part to the work of art. And this is why my project, they all link to places where I decided myself to go. They are not commissions, they are projects who were created in places where I have particular interest, but there are not any other reason except my own particular interest. When you're a young artist, and I remember that's 30 years ago, it was very difficult to do the work I was doing only with selling my original works. You know, I did a variety of odd jobs, from the car washing to restaurant jobs, and many things have nothing to do with art. And I think it's many profession, and legal profession, of actors' profession, and architectural profession, you still need to do a variety of different activity to support your desire. But today I can live only by my work of art. My project have a very strong relation to architecture and urban planning. Is deeply entangled with all kind of reference who usually they only work or belong to the urban planification or architecture, like a street, bridges, highway, all the variety of things where we intricately try to work around them. And of course, the work is proposed to disturb. This is the work called the Mastaba of Abu Dhabi, and it's the project we're working for almost 7-8 years. But actually, the idea is long idea from the early 60s. I did number of works involving oil barrels, stacking oil barrels, normal industrial package oil barrels, And I did project in 1962 called the Iron Curtain, the wall of oil barrels in Rouen, Visconti in Paris, 1962. And since there, I did a number of project works involving oil barrels stacked in different way. In 1967, I tried to do a project much smaller scale like that outside of Houston, between Houston and Galveston, and we fell. In 1972, we tried to do a project smaller like that size outside of Rotterdam and Holland. We fell again. And since the late 70s and 79, we proposed to do a project in the Sheikhdom of Abu Dhabi, in the southern part of Arabian Gulf or Persian Gulf. The project is called the Mastaba of Abu Dhabi, and proposition is to stack hundreds, thousands of barrels, actually 400,000 barrels. When you stack, here's the diagram. If you have your camera, see, when you stack cylindrical object like a barrels or pencil or cigarette, we created form to have two perpendicular walls and two slanted walls and truncate top. It's not a pyramid. The pyramid have a full slanted wall. That form is called mastaba, is Arabic word, and is very much related to the. You still today can find mud benches in the front of Arabic house in Sana and Ethiopia, and when is like a bench when the people can sit, and it's very much related to hospitality of the Arabs. Now, that form it can be created by stacking ordinary oil barrels, and when you stack 400,000 oil barrels, We have a masterberg who is 1,000 feet in the base, 750 feet in slanted sides, and 500 feet tall with the sides of 48 story. And we like to build it outside of the city of Abu Dhabi, with the town very much like a borough of Manhattan, outside in the Persian Gulf, and is related to the system of roadway, bridges, and highway, and will be visible from near 30 miles. The vertical wall will be oriented north-south, will be in shadow, but actually will have these cylindrical parts of the barrels, creating almost like Islamic mosaic, and slanted wall will be much more monochromic, will be oriented east-west. We start to work the project in 1979. We go several times in the Gulf and discussing with the ruler Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan of Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is Federation of United Arab Emirates. It was English protectorate until 1971, and after that became Federation of 7 Sheikhdom. Today is called United Arab Emirates. And of course the things were going quite well, but like everything in our life, again, it's not like an art painting, a sculpture, and urban planning or architecture. The Iran-Iraqi war started, and the area became very difficult in that period. And of course, we hope after Iran-Iraq war is settled and they are signed, probably will be finally finished, and start again negotiating on that project. Probably one of the most significant parts of today's art is the globalization of art in a way that any other human work is the same level, globalized around the world. You know, the art was very almost like a secretive or very close to few people, and today art became more and more widely involving hundreds of people. So much more artists, there's so much more gallery, there's so much more easy communication about seeing art, going around the world, seeing art in different places. Of course, the place was very centralized many years ago, 20 or 25 years ago. Today, you witness a great amount of movement of art exhibition, of artists themselves, and collectors, and museums, and education department, and all that, all around the world. It's not only that happened with art, and we witness that in many other human creativity and human professions, you know, from science to business. Evolution of art, or the creativity of artists, is the projection of that the freedom of thinking, freedom of form, freedom of relation to reality, a freedom to be yourself. And you see that through the whole history of art, and especially taking many examples of history of modern art, you see how much that freedom was a driving force to development of art.
These were Christo's 1978 wrap walkways made in Kansas City, Missouri, using 15,000 square yards over several miles.
We work in several projects simultaneously because you're never sure what project will be happen. And of course, when one project started to give sign is probably realizable, we concentrate all our energy, economics, engineering, advising, and all the aesthetical decision to finalizing that work. This is why we're working extensively now on the umbrella, because that is the project more advanced. But this is another project I start to work in the late 70s, early 80s. It was very natural that after 24 years living in Manhattan, I tried to do something in New York City. In the beginning, when I arrived in 1964 in New York City, I tried to do some works involving the skyline of the city, the architecture. I make sketches to wrap 2 skyscrapers in Lower Manhattan, but I would never get permission. And my interest from involving the skyline of the city, the architecture, moved to do work of art really related to basically to the scale of man. People walking in the street, or basically walking. At some moment I was even contemplating using the sidewalks in Manhattan, but probably I will never get permission to do the sidewalks in Manhattan. This is why the only place when the people walk leisurely is in the park. And the park with incredible, unique presence is Central Park. The idea is to build between 11 to 15,000 steel gates in around 25 miles walkway system. We worked for 1.5 years with City of New York to get permission to go through a variety of public hearings, meetings with the mayor, and after 1.5 years with City of New York, the mayor wrote 230-page book to say no. Artists do the work, and probably we are involved so much with the realization of the things that we never have time to retrospectively think. Probably when we'll be older and tired, I should try to think about that.
We also wish to thank the photographers who worked with Christo on this project: Wolfgang Volz, Harry Schunk, Jean-Claude, Blaise Burkhardt, Jean-Dominique Lacroix. This program copyrighted by Christo and David Howard.
David Howard's Art Scene.